Today I'm talking about the story how me and my friends got caught by the police. This is a pretty crazy one, so stick around to the end because I promise you're not going to regret it. This story time starts off 3 years ago when I was in year 8 in 2019. This is with two of my friends at the time named Noah and Harry. Noah was a very reserved, introverted kid. He really liked playing sports and basically just like me. He was sort of the same person as me, to be honest with you. I was a very introverted year 8 person. I must say I really didn't have that many friends, but also like the friends that I did have were really close to me. So like I didn't really have a big circle. I had a pretty small circle, and that's sort of the same with me now. Like I like to keep a small circle. I don't really like to have a lot of friends because it's just not really worth my time, to be honest with you. So Noah was a kid, he really liked playing sports. He was also really good in school, which is that is a complete opposite to me. I must say I'm not the best student in school. You know, I can't really get good grades or anything like that, and I don't really have good study habits simply because I'm doing this instead, which is just making videos and recording, which is what I'm doing right now. Now Harry, on the other hand, Harry is a bit of a troublemaker, I'll be honest with you. He was really the person who always likes to push the boundaries. He never really listens to the rules, and to be honest, like I can respect him for just like for thinking for himself, but also like it really got to a point where he just like wouldn't even follow the law. And this story time is where that all starts off. So this story time again starts off 3 years ago, and it's mainly got to do with Harry. Also, Harry really didn't do well in school either. So this all starts off on a Friday night after school. All three of us decided during that school day that we're gonna go hang out at Harry's house for the night. We're all gonna go stay at Harry's. It was gonna be a fun night. Obviously, we weren't gonna be drinking because you know, we were 14. But we're all gonna go hang out at Harry's house, so we ended up staying there for probably about 3 hours, and it got to about like 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m, Harry has the genius idea. He goes, why don't we go to an abandoned house? He said that there was this house close by to him that we could probably go to and just have a good night out, and we could end up just sitting there for a little bit. And then me and Noah literally sat there and we're like, Harry, that is probably the worst idea you've ever come up with. Like, that's literally trespassing. We could get into a ton of trouble. Like, I really don't think that that's a good idea. And Harry tells us that he's done this plenty of times and that there's really nothing to worry about, and that we basically have to stop stressing out about it. Like, it really isn't that big of a deal. He told us that he's been to this house probably about like 10 times in probably this year, and it was about March at that point. So this guy had been there a lot, right? So we started to trust Harry a bit more. We're like, okay, maybe this kid knows what he's talking about, even though, right, we should have known from the start that this kid is a troublemaker and he's probably going to get us into trouble. We decided, you know what, we're going to have a fun time. It's a Friday night, like why not? Why don't we just go to this abandoned house? Now, something I should probably mention as well is that Harry's parents also left the house probably about 30 minutes earlier to go out for a dinner, and they were going to be gone for an hour. So at this point, they ended up having like 30 minutes before they were going to get back, but we still decided to go anyway, because why not? So we end up leaving at about 6 p.m, right? So all three of us, we end up getting out of the house, and we end up walking around for probably about 5 minutes. Eventually it started to get a lot darker. Now keep in mind, this was during the winter time, so sunset was probably at around 5:30, right? So it was starting to get pretty dark at this point. So all three of us were walking for around 5 minutes. We went through this like abandoned street that and ended up at the end of this abandoned street that there were no more like how do you say it, street lights anymore. So it's basically complete darkness, right? We were basically just walking through this random street that we had no idea what. Like there was literally no activity, like no human activity at all. It was basically abandoned, right? As Harry had said, it was basically abandoned. But at this point, right, like it was dark, right? I was hearing cricket noises. I was hearing like stuff rustling in the grass behind us. Like I was kind of getting a bit sketched out. I'm not gonna lie. And to be fair, like I had a right to get sketched out. Like it was an abandoned place, and we were 14 years old. It probably wasn't something that we should have been doing. So Harry eventually turns his phone light on. He ends up getting out his phone and pressing the flashlight, and then it's a lot easier to see now, right? So we end up walking around for a little bit, and it ended up getting to about 2 minutes later, and it was kind of making me uneasy, right? I was kind of getting a little bit uneasy, and then I see Noah to the left of me. He started freaking out, right? Like I saw him like get a bit closer to me, and he started like huddling up a little bit. He really wasn't having a good time. And to be honest with you, like as someone who knows Noah, I can understand why. Like this kid really wasn't the type of person to be going out to abandoned buildings at like 6 p.m. Like it just really wasn't something like me and Noah like to be doing. So Noah comes up to me and he whispers in my ear saying, "Yo, bro, like this is not a good idea. Like we shouldn't be out here right now." And I whisper back to him like, "Yeah, bro, I agree. I don't know if we should be doing this." So we both sit there and we ask Harry, and we basically ask like, "Can we turn around? Like this is kind of ridiculous. I don't really want to be here." And Harry says, "No, bro. Like we're really close. Trust me. Like I've done this so many times. You guys are just sketching out. Like it's okay. Like trust me when I say this. No one ever goes here. We're not gonna get into trouble. It's just gonna be a bit of fun. We're gonna explore it, right?" And we go, "Okay, Harry, but if we get into trouble, like this is on you, bro. This is not our idea." He's like, "Of course, but we're not gonna get into trouble, so it's okay. Like you don't have to worry about it." We go, alright bro, sure. So it gets to about 2 minutes later, and Harry ends up flashing his flashlight onto something that looks like a 2-story house. And eventually I'm like, okay, well this clearly does not look abandoned. But then I sort of looked a bit closer and I saw that there were like a bunch of the glass windows were broken, right? And a lot of the brick walls were decaying a little bit. From what I could see where the light was, the bricks were kind of decaying and it really didn't look habitable, right? Like I don't think anyone would be living there. There was like a driveway, like it looked like a mansion, right? But it looked like an abandoned mansion. There was a circular driveway. There were no cars in the driveway, which is kind of a good sign, meaning that there was probably nobody there. And there were also no lights on in the house. And there obviously, like, there were no lights in the house because it really looked like an old building. I mean, this building looked like it was something from the 1800s, right? Like, it really looked like it wasn't built very recently. And obviously, it wasn't built recently because it probably looked older than the country it was standing on. So at that point, we ended up walking up the driveway and we ended up getting to the front door. And this is where stuff really starts to get kind of weird. So as we got to the front door, we realized that the front door was already open and it was kind of slashed like halfway through. Like, it was basically a half door. It wasn't even really a door at this point. It was this wooden door and it had splinters all over it. So we ended up not touching the door because I didn't want to get splinters in my hands. But we also noticed something else, and that there was on the ground, it was sort of like watered up, but you could kind of see it. There was fluoro yellow police tape. So upon seeing this, I'm like, oh nah bro, like we cannot go in there. Like there's literally police tape there. Like this is so stupid, Harry. Like why are we doing this? And he goes, come on bro, it's completely safe. Trust me. Like again, I've done this like 10 times in the last month. Like there's literally nothing wrong here. Trust me bro, it's safe. Like this police tape is from like 30 years ago. There was a crime scene here. Like this place is really old. Like no one goes here anymore. And he said, trust me, you'll be fine. And Noah, same with you bro. Like you gotta stop stressing out. Like it's okay. And my dumbass being just completely just out of it and just not realizing the severity of the situation. I just reluctantly agree with Harry, and so does Noah, and then we just end up going up inside anyway. So all three of us end up going inside, right? And at the start, you know, there was really nothing wrong with it, you know, nothing really happened. We ended up walking in and there were just a bunch of like empty rooms and stuff. There wasn't any furniture or anything, and there really wasn't anything there that could possibly get us hurt or get us into trouble. Like the roofs were kind of, there were holes in the roof obviously, but it really wasn't, it wasn't gonna collapse or anything. Like we really weren't in any sort of danger. So we sort of just sit there for a little bit and you know, like we're not really doing anything. We're sort of just exploring this place a little bit. And then Harry, this absolute muppet, just turns around and he goes, oi, Ricky, Noah, look at this. And I'm not even kidding, Harry literally pulls his pants down and starts peeing on the floor. Obviously turned away from us, but like he literally just starts peeing on the floor. Now this floor wasn't like a carpet floor or anything, it was a tile floor, so he ends up aiming it away from us and end up going up somewhere else. But it was so disgusting, like this kid literally just did that, and I'm like, Harry, what the hell are you doing? And then Harry starts laughing, he's like, look bro, I'm just doing this. And then Noah starts laughing, which really surprised me because this kid was basically a goody two shoes, right? Like it was the kid that would never get into trouble. So he starts laughing, and at that point I sort of cave in and I start laughing as well, because to be fair, it was pretty funny. And I mean, we were 14 at the time, so it kind of makes sense that was our humor, that just peeing on a random floor would be funny. So Harry ends up finishing that, and then so he ends up just, I don't know what he's doing after that. He ends up just running around and being an idiot. So everyone's laughing, right? We're all having a good time, and unfortunately this isn't where it ends, right? Like we didn't just leave the house and it was all good. No, of course it wasn't. This story time ends up taking a really dark turn. So our fun didn't really last for long, right? Like it really didn't last for long, because just 5 minutes later, after Harry does what he did, we end up seeing blue and red lights basically flash through my eyes. I end up seeing like these blue and red lights just like flash through my eyes, like basically through the broken parts of the walls. At first I thought it was just a car going through the highway or whatever, you know, we'd seen cars go through like while we were in the house, like in the distance, I guess. But these blue and red lights weren't getting further away, like they weren't passing us. They ended up getting closer and ended up becoming more frequent. Like I was seeing these that happen like every half a second. And then the lights got even more close to me, and then even more close, and eventually got to a point where I hear a car door open. And at this point I'm like, oh god, this is not a joke anymore. Like this is serious. I ended up turning to Harry and Noah. I'm like, bro, there's literally police outside. We literally saw we saw 2 police cars outside, and there were 2 people in each police car. And at this point we're like, oh god, this is bad. Like I get it if there was 1 police car, right? But there were 2 police cars. At that point, right, if there's 2 police cars, you're going to jail, or you're at least going into custody or something like that. Now I probably shouldn't have been freaking out so much, considering the fact that we were literally 14 years old and the police weren't really gonna do anything that bad to us. But the reason they had 2 police cars is probably because they didn't know that we were minors, right? Like they probably figured that, oh, these are just some dumb 21-year-olds. But I come to find out that we are both 14, so there really wasn't much that they could do. But anyway, right, so eventually the police car opens the door, right? So all 4 doors open, open, and then eventually they shut. And before I can even say anything, before we can even come up with a plan of like just going outside calmly and saying, hey, like we're sorry, like we didn't mean to do this, Harry literally grabs his stuff, which was a drink bottle, and bolts it. He literally runs out the door and sprints out over the fence, like where the police can't see him. And I hear one of the police officers say, hey, what are you doing? And then I see one police officer just run after him, like completely bolt after him. And then me and Noah are just sitting inside like, what the hell? Like what just happened? Like Harry's gone. It's literally just us two. We shouldn't even be here. We didn't even know we weren't meant to be here. Like we're just people who started following Harry, and now Harry's gone. And eventually I see the police officer try and jump over the fence that Harry just jumped over, but then he couldn't get over, so he just gave up on him. And then eventually I hear the police officers go, if there's anyone else in there, you guys gotta get out of here right now, and don't even think about running away because you get into more trouble. So then we cooperated and we listened, right? And then me and Noah, like we eventually just put our hands up and we slowly walk out of the door. Like we didn't make a fuss out of it. We didn't make a scene because we knew for a fact that Harry was gonna get into a lot more trouble than we were. So we ended up playing the good card, and we ended up just going out with our hands up and cooperated. So the police ended up grabbing us and ended up putting our hands on our back and putting us in handcuffs. And immediately I'm just like, oh god, like we're screwed. We're like, me and Noah are completely screwed. We are probably the two most reserved people in our entire year level, and we're probably gonna get arrested or something like that. And the police officer ends up sitting us down. Like he obviously wasn't violent with us because we were only 14, so he ends up sitting us down and he goes, all right, so what are you guys doing out here? Like, why are you guys here? And I didn't really say anything. And then Noah, right, he completely fesses up. He's like, listen, like the guy you just saw run over the fence, that's our friend Harry. Like he ended up bringing us out here. And at this point, he's completely in tears, right? Like he's bawling his eyes out. He's crying his eyes out. Like it was a very sad thing to see. So Noah ends up bawling his eyes out. He's like, oh yeah, so Harry's our friend, and he ends up bringing us out here. Like we didn't know we weren't supposed to be here. Like I'm so sorry. I didn't know that we weren't meant to be here. And then the police officer goes, okay, so where did Harry go? Like where do you think he went? And I look at the officer and I'm like, I genuinely have no idea. Like I don't know where Harry went. I don't know why he left. Like we literally told him like just go outside and cooperate. But then before we could even get a chance to talk to him, he literally just dashed it out the side and he ended up jumping the fence. And the police officer goes, okay, so where are you guys staying tonight? And we look at the police officer and we go, yeah, we're staying at Harry's house. So if you want to bring us back there and we can go talk to his parents about it, we can. And then the police officer goes, all right, you guys can get in the back of the car. You guys aren't in that much trouble because you guys cooperated. Like you guys obviously you didn't know that you weren't supposed to be here, but just for next time, do not go to abandoned houses even if they seem abandoned, because it is trespassing and it is against the law. So I'm gonna let you guys off this time, but we're gonna go back to Harry's house. I'm gonna talk to his parents about it. And we said, okay, yeah, sure. So we end up going back to Harry's house. We end up going back in the police car, and the police pull outside of Harry's house and we end up getting out. The police takes the handcuffs off us because he realizes that we aren't really a threat. Like we're 14 years old and we didn't know we weren't meant to be there. We end up walking inside and we realize that Harry's parents were already back home from their dinner, and that they did not look very happy because obviously, right, they've been trying to call Harry's phone and Harry had been ignoring them because we were at the abandoned house. So we end up walking inside and Harry's like, all right, what are you two doing back here? Like where were you two and where's Harry? And the police officer ends up explaining to Harry's parents that yeah, we caught these two out in an abandoned house and Harry ran away from us. Like Harry's gonna be in a lot of trouble if he doesn't come back very, very soon. And Harry's parents are like, oh my god, like why has he done this? Like Harry, for God's sake. And the policeman goes, do you guys know where Harry could possibly be? Like, do you know if you guys can contact him or whatever? And Harry's parents go, yeah, we've been trying to contact him all night. Like Ricky and Noah, did you guys know that we were trying to contact Harry all night? And we go, no, like we didn't know his phone was ringing. Like he didn't say anything about it. And Harry's mum goes, oh, for God's sake, okay. And then Harry's mum ends up calling Harry, and Harry ends up answering, right? Because at this point, like he's literally, he's long gone, right? Like we don't know where he's at. At this point, there's no more getting out of the situation, right? Like he's long gone. If he doesn't come home now, he's gonna end up staying the night out on like the street or something. So at this point, Harry ends up walking home, and he walks back inside, and he gets a very long talking to. But before we could even hear what Harry's parents were gonna say to him, Harry's parents end up basically calling our parents and saying that me and Noah end up having to go home. So we end up going home, and turns out Harry ended up getting grounded for literally 2 months, which was kind of insane, right? Like 2 months is a very long time, but it's very understandable. Like this kid literally just went out to an abandoned house without telling his parents. And yeah, that's how this story time ends. So our moral of the story is don't be like Harry and don't go out to abandoned houses because you're probably going to get into a lot of trouble. Anyway, thank you all for watching the video. If you guys want to send in story times, go to my Instagram, @GlottigYT, and you'll probably be featured in a video. Just send me a DM and, we'll see where things end up. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.